Welcome to Vegas Circle with Paki and Chris, and today in the circle we actually have Michael Jackson. So, Michael, man, welcome to the circle.
What's going on, Michael?
What's up?
So, man, so just introduce you. We just want you to introduce yourself and just kind of explain. We know a lot about your YouTube channel. I want you to be able to explain it.
I have a long background in the video game industry, and that's really the sort of thing that I feel like defines me. And in more recent times, I've moved away from it. I moved to Vegas. That was kind of a part of it, moving away from the industry. There's not a great deal of... I was doing writing. I was a journalist, right? So there's not really any journalism here, not for video games at least, right? If I wanted to stay in my industry and continue down my organic path, I would have moved to maybe San Francisco or something like that. But being in Vegas, it meant I was sort of stepping away from that, and I embraced the change. So the YouTube channel basically is me actually sort of missing that scene and sort of missing being a part of it. So I am trying to basically forge my own way without leaving this town. I don't want to leave. I want to stay here. I really enjoy being here. I like the life. I like the quality of life that you can live here. So the objective is stay in Vegas whilst basically getting myself back into the games industry as much as I can, and that is the that was the impetus for me to start this YouTube channel and try and leverage some of my previous former contacts and talents and skills that I had before.
Yeah, awesome. I hear an accent. Where'd you grow up at?
I'm from London.
So London.
I've been in Vegas since I moved to the US. I moved straight to Vegas in 2010.
What brought you straight to Vegas?
So we used to do a lot of traveling for games journalism. You travel a lot. You tend to travel to countries to go to studios to go and see games where they're being made, or you'll go to a town that is in some way thematically relevant, right? There was a company, I don't know if you guys know the company Midway. They make Mortal Kombat.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
right?
Okay. Yeah.
So they used to do an annual show out here in Vegas. Every single year they used to bring out a whole group of journalists from Europe to see and showcase their most recent games. And I was out here for, I think it was their last ever trip before they stopped doing it in 2008. And I was staying at the Red Rock Hotel.
Yeah.
And that is where my wife now used to work.
Okay.
So essentially, the reason why I'm here is because I came out here on a work trip, and then got up to no good and tried to woo one of the locals and was successful, and now I'm still here. So yeah, essentially, it's like we were talking about it a few weeks ago on Facebook with a few of the guys that were there on that trip, and they had struck up a conversation about how they were reminiscing on that trip and how it was awesome, and they miss going to Vegas every year. And I just dropped in a comment saying, "Didn't leave, still here." 10 years later.
That's wild. That's good stuff, man. So what motivates you, man? What motivates you to do this?
You know, I don't want to launch into a 1 hour conversation about this, but motivation is something that I think about quite a lot, because I think deep down in my core I'm a lazy person, right? But
I would have never expected you to say that.
You know, and I get compliments quite regularly for being someone who's overly proactive, but it's mostly my proactiveness is centered, I think, entirely around my almost anxiety for not progressing, not moving forward, not getting anywhere.
So if you had a choice, you'd rather relax.
Yeah, you know, and I have a good job, you know, for all intents and purposes. I have what people would consider to be a good job in IT, and it pays all the bills and then some, and we can enjoy our lives, and I could do absolutely nothing else, right? Just my 9 to 5. But man, I have passions in life, and I was spoiled by the opportunity and the privilege to go to work every single day and do something that I loved, and that was writing for Nintendo magazine, right? Like, I could go to work, and you know, they say if you do what you love, you don't work a day in your life.
Yeah.
And I really didn't know what a real job felt like until I got my job now, essentially, right? Like, I worked for Nintendo magazine. Like,
and you
that's
were
a pretty tough gig,
right? Yeah, you were.
I wasn't. So I was full time with them, in house as a full time employee, staff writer at first. I used to read the magazine when I was a kid, so. I essentially obsessed over the magazine growing up, and when everybody started talking about what they want to do with their lives as teenagers, I was pretty like tunnel vision. Like, I want to work for Nintendo magazine. Most kids would say, oh, well, you didn't want to go and make video games. And I sort of knew there was a clear distinction. Making video games is difficult and arduous and it can be monotonous. I don't want to make games because I think that the game you make, you will never play.
Yeah,
right?
It's kind of ruins the whole.
I don't want to make the next Zelda game. I want to play it when it comes out, right? So I wanted to write about them, and so Nintendo Magazine was what I did. I got in very early. Most kids would dream on until they're in their mid-20s after college and university. But
and you actually talk about that on your YouTube, right?
Yeah, I did a video. I thought that, you know what, as soon as I start this channel, I really need to get my background out, because it's actually it's quite a phenomenal story that even myself, when I tell it sort of seems fake. But yeah, I got in really early. I was 15 when I got involved with the magazine at first.
Oh wow!
Essentially on like a, what would you call it? Like a voluntary basis, right?
Sure.
So I was there doing internship, I guess, essentially. We called it work experience, and they gave me a project that I could do that I didn't need particularly journalism skills to do. It was Pokemon, and Pokemon hadn't come out yet. There was no one knew what Pokemon was at this point, and I had to play a Pokemon game and essentially test the guides that they had written, that they were about to publish. And I did that when I was 15, going into 16 years old, and they liked what I did so much that they commissioned me on to participate with the follow-up to that magazine. And then I begged them to let me stay on for as a writer when I decided to go to college for journalism and media.
Sure.
And they did, they agreed. So I wrote for them on a part-time basis, just doing tips and cheats, nothing too serious. But as soon as I left college, man, they were like, we really want you on a part of the team, and they hired me on. And I was, in UK we graduate early, so this might be a bit confusing for your audience, but we finish school at 16 years old and we go into college at that age. And then so I had graduated from college by the time I was 18, and then I got my journalism job right at 18.
Did you go to school for journalism? Is that what you
I did? So school, I went to college for, it was a BTEC National Diploma in Media, which covered journalism, television, what you guys are doing, radio. So I'm essentially trained in all of this stuff.
Awesome.
It was a course amalgamating all of those things.
That's good stuff, man. So what actually got you interested in video games? Was it just...
Yeah, it sounds like a lifelong passion for you.
Yeah, for me, nothing got me into video games. It's like video games is in my core. It's in my DNA. And I know some people would say that, and it seems a bit wishy-washy. It seems almost a bit cliche. But man, when I think back to being like my earliest memories, right, as like maybe a 3-year-old, if I really struggle, I can remember certain flashes, glimpses of memories from being 3 or 4 years old. My uncle had an Atari 2600, and I was born in 83, right?
Yeah, I haven't heard Atari in a minute.
Yeah, and you know, as soon as he showed me, I remember he had 2 games that really stood out in my memory because I was so small, I don't remember much, but it was Space Invaders and a game called Combat, which was a multiplayer, 2-player, mostly combat game where you play as tanks or helicopters and stuff. Anyway, so I see that, and I just remember from that moment on, right up through schooling, right up to teen years, I was laser focused on video games, man. I didn't care about football. I sort of flirted with the idea of being a Formula One fan, and I still try and pretend I'm a Formula One fan, but man, my whole life has just been video games. When I know there's going to be, when I was a kid and I knew there was going to be a video game in the room, I would just sit and stare at it until someone says, "Hey man, do you want to go?" Of course I do. Yes, please. All right, let's go.
Yeah, I'm the exact same way. I understand that.
Yeah.
I know nothing about video games.
Dude,
so
I didn't care about bikes. I didn't care about. I was never into anything but that. And it's in some ways it was a little tragic.
Yeah.
I do remember kids at school saying, "Mike, you don't talk about anything else, man. What else are you into?"
What's wild, Chris and I were talking about it too, is I heard a couple years back, video gaming industry, and I forgot how it was worded, but video games are bigger than, was it Hollywood and music together?
Yeah.
That's how big the video game industry is.
I know it had overtaken Hollywood in terms of its biggest blockbusters and the dollar amount that they attract in the first X amount of time, like a month. But I didn't know it was bigger than both combined.
I read that. I don't know if I hate to take it out of context, but I heard something similar to that. I couldn't believe how big it is.
Yeah.
So.
Well, some games like Red Dead Redemption made $1 billion in the first week.
Yeah, and it seems like every time, especially Red Dead's made by a company called Rockstar, and it seems like every time those guys put a game out, it breaks entertainment records. So that's not video game sales
Yeah.
records. It sets the bar for how much money an entertainment product has ever made.
That's wild.
And they consistently do that. Those guys, they make GTA, and that's what most of your audience will have heard of. So, GTA and Red Dead, they just set records every time.
It's unbelievable. So, can you kind of explain to the listeners kind of like what your channel's about, what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I strip it down to its rawest form, all I'm trying to accomplish is I want to share my passion for video games with people, right? I want it to be the ultimate outlet for everything that I love about games. And a lot of guys would say, well, I play video games every day too, right? Yeah, sure, like sort of jump on the couch, turn on your game console and play, right? But there's a whole culture that revolves around video games. There's staying up late at night to watch live streams of presentations by Nintendo or something.
Competing, right? Because people make.
There's lots of esports and competitions. I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point. And I go to Japan and I just go straight to the sort of epicenter of video games there, like places where you would go to buy video games, like Akihabara and things like that. And just. My house, my daughter's called Zelda. My house is set up like a Nintendo sort of almost museum, and every week I'm out there. I'm on eBay and I'm meeting guys in town and I'm trading games and buying games. And I just think it's not just really loving Call of Duty, right? This is what I do is fully immerse myself in this game stuff, and things I take for granted, such as I have a friend right now who works in a major development studio. I have a friend who just came back from Japan after having several meetings with video game developers, and the access I have to these people is amazing because they're my friends. We talk casually. We talk casually about things that they're doing, and I take it for granted. But if I take a step back and really look at it, people are interested in this stuff, so I want to be able to share that. So that's kind of at its core. But I think the real thing I really want this YouTube video to achieve for me is I would love it to be my life. It's early doors yet, we're a month and a half in. It's a brand new channel, right? But either way I look at it is I'm launching a brand, not just putting some videos up of me playing some video games. I'm launching a brand. This is will hopefully be a media outlet, right? It will be me covering both modern, retro. So I have a high-end gaming PC that I play brand new games on pretty much to the minute. So if you guys are interested in seeing Resident Evil 2, which just came out, Devil May Cry 5, any of those things, I have. Yeah, I mean, I've my wife would probably kill me, but I spent close to $3,000 on a PC setup recently. So, and then yesterday I went and met a dude and I bought a Sega Saturn. So it's both ends of the scale, man. I've got he threw in a PlayStation with it too. So I just bought a game console from 1996, and I have a graphics card that was released 3 months ago. All of it.
Are you reviewing games on the channel, or
I want to stay away from reviews per se because everybody's doing it, and they kind of tend to lack originality, and the validity of reviews is always under question because my opinion's not the same as your opinion.
Yeah.
I just want to cover video games. I don't really necessarily want to review them. So, for example, Devil May Cry just came out, big game, awesome graphics. I'd rather just throw the thing on, talk about what makes it awesome or what I like about it. Of course it will all have this layer of opinion about it, and so you could extract from that what you want in terms of whether you want to make the decision to buy it. But honestly, man, the whole review thing is something that I think their validity to people has waned over the years, because if you want to know what a game looks like, you can just go and watch it being played, right?
That is true. It's
accessible. You couldn't do that 15 years ago, right? You relied on there being a disc on the front of a magazine for you to play, or you read the magazine. These days, you can just go on YouTube.
Everything's at your fingertips.
Yeah. And even then, big companies like EA and EA, Microsoft, they have these. They're not traditional rental services, but you can pay a couple bucks and subscribe to their service for the month, and it's Netflix for video games. You just download the game you want to play and play it.
Reviews are getting harder and harder, really.
Yeah. Crackdown, a game one of Microsoft's recent exclusives is a game called Crackdown 3, and it was getting some pretty bad reviews, but I have a sort of soft spot for that game. So I went online and found out that they were doing 2 months of their Netflix for games. It's called Game Pass for $2. So I paid $2 and I have 2 months access to pretty much all of Microsoft's most prominent Xbox games, and that goes across Xbox and PC. So of course I downloaded it on the PC.
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
Yeah, it's cheap, you know. It's easy access to games. So.
But I think those reviews might have been warranted for Crackdown 3.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. I think there's.
Do you know it?
Yeah, I played it. It was a tough one.
Yeah, it's. I just love the originals, man.
The originals were great.
It's not as good as those, but it's similar enough.
So it sounds like you're fully immersed in like the video game culture. How much time do you think you spend on a weekly basis playing the actual video games?
That the answer to that question you might find somewhat ironic. I have a 1.5-year-old and a full-time job.
Yeah, that's the hardest part.
And you know, funnily enough, I have a YouTube channel about video games that further detracts from my ability to play them, right? Because editing doesn't happen in 5 seconds.
No,
and
not at all.
Filming and planning and writing and doing interviews like you guys do and all these things, right? So, man, I honestly think I would do, you know, when Destiny came out, I would do 6 hours a night with my friends, right? Come home, hug the wife, like just destroy a plate of food and then straight on the game, right, with my friends. But nowadays,
she plays too, though, right?
Yeah, she does actually. So we have 2 of everything almost, right? 2 PlayStations, 2 Xboxes, 2 gaming PCs, and she joins in. But we're both tight for time, and we're both more tired than we've ever been.
Yeah, 1.5-year-old is a wrap.
Yeah. And no daycare for us, you know. So she works early, I work late, and we basically don't have any time. We don't see each other much. We don't spend much time. We don't sleep much. So I play games as much as I can is the real answer. Yeah. But it's maybe 6 hours, 7 hours a week now, right? As opposed to 6 hours a night when I.
That's one of the worst parts about getting older. I swear, you get less time to play video games.
You know. It's tough.
What is your current? What would you say your favorite game is right now? If you had to?
Breath of the Wild. Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. It came out on the Switch 2 years ago. It was a launch game. Okay. The Nintendo Switch. It's their console, portable, handheld. Everybody knows what the Switch is. But it was their launch game, and it's absolutely one of my favorite games of all time. I think, if not my favorite game of all time. It's just.
Oh wow, that's a huge endorsement.
Yeah, it's next level. You got to play it.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out. I don't even know what it is.
Paki's got to start with a sports game or something. Legend of Zelda might be too little.
Zelda, if you're familiar with Zelda, they're adventure games. They're the like ultimate escapism adventure style stuff. But they're not so blown open as say games like World of Warcraft, where you can sink 500 or 600 hours and spend time with friends online and things like that. Zelda is a very hyper focused single player game where you get lost in an adventure and in a very tightly written, coherent storyline. Breath of the Wild doesn't have particularly the best storyline of the Zelda franchise, but what it does have is the game's called Breath of the Wild because it features its main character is really the world that you're in. It's a fully open world Zelda game where you can go wherever you want and do anything you want in any order, and the world itself is realized in a way that makes it feel like a real place. So it's not just the ability to swing a sword and kill an enemy. It has a, what do they call it? It's like a chemistry system. So wind blows and cools down the climate, and rain puts out fires, and fire burns wood, and metal conducts electricity, and stones sink, wood floats, and there's we could go on about it, but you manipulate those systems dynamically to complete puzzles and defeat enemies, and it's everybody who plays the game has different stories to tell of how they use these things in the game and how they came up with ingenious ideas to get over obstacles. And
also, there's like multiple variations of solving.
Yeah. I mean, like you want to climb up a mountain, but you can't because you don't have enough stamina at that point in the game. So you have this parachute thing that's like you can use it to glide. Mm-hmm. And so what I did was I'd noticed earlier on in the game when an enemy that shoots fire had lit up a bunch of grass, and the size of the flame had created this visible updraft in wind, right? So I wanted to climb over this mountain and I couldn't get high enough. So I just lit an enormous fire and then jumped into the fire with my parachute,
this is like no joke.
That carried me up.
Down now. Okay.
But yeah, you can use like you can use an ice sword to freeze an enemy, and then use a wind item to blow him off the edge of a cliff, and he would fall and he would shatter. And all of those things are physical properties. Video games, nothing's nothing's automatic, right? Everything has to be programmed by a man, right? So the fact that you can freeze a guy and then blow him off of the side of a cliff and he'll fall and land on the ground and he will shatter, is it takes effort and time and design, right? And that's what makes that game really awesome.
So do you like the direction that the video game industry is like currently heading in?
I don't know.
Is it kind of, because it's weird, it's getting harder and harder to innovate, but when you see things like Legend of Zelda where they do have these innovations, they're really big.
Yeah. I mean, I would say I love video games as much now as I ever have. But I think part of that is because I'm thankful and still fully engaged in the old and the new.
Yeah.
Right? If we were to say limit this discussion onto just exactly what video games are doing right now, there's good and bad. I don't really particularly enjoy the loot box thing, and I don't think that's pretty much a unanimous opinion, right? Is that games are trying to find new ways to monetize themselves, and they're doing that by, some of the biggest games out right now are free. You just go and download them. Apex Legends and Fortnite, right? They're the biggest games in the world, and they're free. And they're not free because they're budget made or made by a small they're huge AAA big budget titles that were made by massive studios, and they just give them away. And then they sprinkle in microtransactions and loot boxes and these sort of gambling-esque type mechanics where you want to look cool, but you can't just buy the thing that makes you look cool for $5. You buy a pack that has things in it, and some of those things might make you look cool.
Yeah.
Right? And
that's
so
their strategy.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a bit like when you put money into sort of one of those you don't know what you're going to get type machines. They call it
like
gashapon in Japan. But the grocery store, you put in $1 and you get something, right?
Yeah.
You don't know what it is,
Yeah.
and you see the sticker and you want that guy, but you don't know which one you're going to get. They're building that mechanic into games now. It's good. It's done in good ways. Sometimes it's done poorly. Most
I'm
of the
assuming
time.
it's because you keep buying it. That's where they're making the money. You keep buying it till you
like
get
League of
the
Legends is a free game, but I probably spend $1,700 on it.
Yeah, I need to get into business.
I work with a guy who had a $300 a month budget on an iPhone game that he liked.
A budget of $300. That's wild.
Yeah, so he was like, I restrict myself to $300 a month on this game.
like it's taking it easy.
Yeah, like that's sensible.
Yeah, that's a lot of money, man.
The biggest game guy you guys have ever met, and I don't think I've ever spent $300 every month of an entire year. You know what I mean? And this guy consistently did that for 2 years, I think.
Damn,
$300
that's crazy, man. What made you start Supertanooki TV?
I want to. I just want to I want to be involved, man. I miss. My job had me meeting the people who made these games, right? My job. I met Shigeru Miyamoto. He's the guy who created Super Mario, right?
Oh wow.
I met.
You actually met him?
Yeah,
That's
twice
pretty
actually. I've
pretty
interviewed
cool.
him just like this, with
Oh, that's
microphones and
pretty cool.
everything. Yeah. I met Yuji Naka, the guy who created Sonic. I
that's
interviewed the guy who.
He's like pioneers. He's like,
The guy
he's
who
big.
directs Gran Turismo, right? Kazunori Yamauchi. I've just met. If you play a major game in the past 15 years or so, I've probably interviewed the guy who
That's
created
impressive.
it, right? And because this is when you work for a major publication. I worked for Nintendo magazine for most of my career, but I also worked for a website called CVG, stands for Computer and Video Games. Website's closed now, unfortunately. The company decided that they didn't want to have multiple video game outlets, and they've shrunk their portfolio. And they had another website that was more based in America, so they decided to go the America route and stay with the American market. So that meant that our website was an unfortunate victim of that. But CVG was huge. It was awesome. It was one of the biggest websites in the UK and Europe. And it was amazing to work for because unlike Nintendo magazine, where I was pretty much only covering Nintendo stuff, which is a dream come true, I'm not going to knock it, but CVG really allowed me to broaden my horizons. And so within a year of working for CVG, I had the Gran Turismo guy. That's a PlayStation thing, right? And I went to Italy with a company that was making a new Ferrari racing game, and we went to Italy to Ferrari HQ. I met either the CEO or the president of Ferrari, but I'm not
Good chance
too
to drive
sure. Yeah. Oh yeah. So we they put us in race cars and gave us racing tuition.
Oh damn, yeah.
So we did racing tuition, which is another sort of career path I went down for a while. I actually worked for Speed Vegas in town, so I was teaching people to go on to how to drive on track, and that's something I've always been passionate about. Video games and cars, right? I mentioned F1 earlier on. I love cars, and so I did that for a while. But yeah, and so, you know, I started this channel because I want to be back involved, and that's a pipe dream at the moment, I guess, because I have a paltry following of a few people, and it's just starting out. I'm still, you know, learning how to edit videos itself.
Sure.
Look, to put it this way, 2 months ago, I'd never edited a video, right? I'd never set up
good, though. Yeah,
a DSLR, right? And I feel like it's come a long way in just the past 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Like leaps and bounds in the past 8 weeks in my ability to edit. So once I get this thing figured out and I really start pushing out content and relaxing on the technical side of it and just getting with the content side, I hope that this channel is my avenue back into the games industry, and I want to involve as many of my old contacts and friends and former industry people as I can, and just get it. Yeah,
that's good.
That's you're in there.
What would you say has been, you know, your biggest obstacle with building your business?
I would say the biggest obstacle I'm even facing right now, time, I guess. It's difficult to edit, right? It's easy, but it's also difficult. I don't just want to drag and drop a video into a timeline. I don't just want to throw a music track over the top and just have me talking in a sort of darkly lit room. I want it to look really good. I'm watching the biggest YouTubers,
represent your brand.
Random Frank P is one of them. You know, I watch his video. I love the way his videos look. I'm watching several major YouTubers, and I want my channel to look exactly like theirs, right? And I'm new at this.
Yeah, it looks really good.
You know,
really
so
good.
That's the biggest challenge for me, is that. And then the other thing I think for me is procrastination paralysis, mostly, right? It's like, it doesn't quite look that good, so now what do I have to do? And instead of just releasing content and improving as I go, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking and I'm formulating and I'm planning, and that's not always the best way to go about things. You kind of just need to jump in and get it started and do it. So I'm forcing myself not to be that person that is so overly self-critical that I end up not doing something because I don't feel like I can do it to the standard that I want it to be at.
Just gotta do it.
Right? So I'm sort of stepping outside of my box, my comfort zone, and I'm just throwing videos up. I don't feel comfortable on camera yet, but I'm hoping that over time that will come, you know. And I'll just
go muscle memory at a certain period. It'll be muscle memory.
So outside of gaming, what do you do in Las Vegas for fun?
I have a fairly awesome set of friends. You know, it's funny, I have a bigger social circle here in the 10 years I've lived than I ever had in England in the 26 years I've lived there. One of the reasons why I love being here. So, you know, when I'm free and my wife and I have time away from, you know, the little one, we eat. We eat, and I used to be fairly I would say involved in the Vegas car scene. I used to have a 370, a Nissan 370Z, and I would go to Cars and Coffee every Sunday morning and go and hang out with those guys there, and go to the events. We still go to track days and all those things as well, but that has kind of moved by the wayside in recent years. So mostly I have a friend who loves to try new restaurants, so we try every couple of weeks, we try and go to new restaurants, and I'm an incessant explorer. I love to go to the unknown.
Travel everywhere.
I've traveled the world with my job. You know, that was one of the awesome things. It really scratched that itch for me, and I just want to keep doing that. So while I'm here in Vegas and I'm not on a plane, we go to new restaurants and we try new things on the menu we've never heard of, and we try and do that as much as possible. So I would say that's one of the main things I do for fun outside of
what
getting
would you
online.
say is your favorite restaurant in Vegas?
For the longest time now, can I cheat and mention two? So my wife's Filipino, and I eat a lot of Asian food. It's kind of been not because of her. She's almost a result of that rather than the cause of it. But my favorite food is, at the moment, I'm just obsessed with Korean food, man. So there's a Korean barbecue place called Soyo, and it's over on Rainbow. Soyo, Soyo. It's on South Rainbow, south of the 215, and it's just this really small, almost looks like a secret place, but then it has a quite prominent place in its parking area. But it's this really small restaurant that just sells the most amazing ribs and chicken and soups, casseroles, and you can just go in there and get lost.
Right now,
it's so awesome.
Vegas is a great.
And then the other one I really like is a Japanese place called Kyukaku, which is Japanese yakiniku. It's essentially like Korean barbecue, but it's Japanese in style. So instead of it being thinly sliced meat, it's usually cubed meat, so little steak cuts that are very heavily marinated in the most amazing sauces, and you cook it yourself on this little hot dip plate in front of you. Super easy because most of it's beef. And it's just really, really good.
That's awesome.
And not super expensive. I like that sort of $60 range, right? I don't.
Yeah, because Vegas will kill you with 5-star restaurants.
Yeah, you can get crazy, right? Yeah. But I'm not. I love my steak, right? But I don't want to pay $120. I love. Do you guys eat tomahawks?
Oh yeah, I got one.
Actually, you just had one at I forgot the restaurant at downtown Summerlin.
I don't know.
There's a restaurant that does I can't even think of the name.
That's it's catching me off guard, but I got one there. It was really good.
Steakhouse there. I was actually with Chris with dinner. So
so I've taken to buying tomahawks myself at Sam's Club.
Oh really?
They're $30.
That's not bad.
And it's like the biggest steak you've ever seen.
I think the one you had
it was like 5 pounds. I think it was huge.
Take them home, grill them up yourself. Amazing. And you don't when you're sitting there, as long as you can cook it right, which I've gotten the hang of it now. You're eating a steak you would pay $130, $140 for in the restaurant, right?
It's no joke.
$35, man.
So where do you see yourself trying to take Supertanooki in the next 5 years? What's your goals or ambitions with the project?
Man, 5 years from now, the dream is to have 100,000 subscribers or more. That all of the channels I watch and try to model myself on one day you can see their early videos where they hope for 100,000 and they're actually on 1 million now.
Yeah, that's wild.
So if 1 million comes, wow, that would be incredible. But for me, I think the first major milestone. There are other milestones before then. I can't. I'd love to get to 10,000. But the big milestone for the 5-year mark, if I could get to 100,000 and just have the channel big enough to maybe even be my full-time career, that would be perfect. That's what I want to do, right? That's the ultimate dream, I think, for this, is to be able to be independent. And
so do you think the best way to do that is like get a viral video that gets you a bunch of subscribers, or just to flood with content?
Yeah, so growing a YouTube channel 101, I guess you always put out consistent content that you that is true to you. I think that's something I'm struggling with. Your earlier question with struggles is, there's the content that you think will get hits, and then there's the content that basically is just what you want to watch, right?
Yeah,
it's just who you are, right?
It feels right. Yeah.
And those two things aren't always necessarily the same thing, right? For example, I bought a Sega Saturn, I just mentioned. I got a few games from a local collector that I want to play, and the Sega Saturn wasn't popular when it was out. It certainly isn't a big deal now. That's not going to get me 2-3 million hits, right? But I love it, and I want to produce that video, and I want to put it out there. So I'm trying to find that fine line between doing stuff I love, or maybe I do 1 or 2 videos a week that I love and enjoy, but then I do at least 1 video a week that's relevant, right?
Speaking your truth.
And I'm not gonna, doesn't mean I'm gonna make a video about stuff I don't care about, because then the video wouldn't be good, because it wouldn't come from a place of it wouldn't come from an informed source or a place of passion, right? But I put up a video recently that talks a little bit about cheating in Apex Legends. So Apex Legends is one of the biggest games out right now, and the company announced recently that in the first week or 2 they had banned 16,000 players.
Oh wow.
And I play Apex Legends, and I like Apex Legends, right? It's not the epicenter of my video game passion right now, but I play it and I like it. It's a very cool game. So I thought, you know what, that will be a good video to do that's relevant. Let's talk about cheating in Apex. So I put that up, and it overtook 2 of my other videos, which I spent 3 times the amount of time making in a day, right? So I have to sort of juggle it, I think, but that's the sort of things I want to put out is a mix of relevant and modern and now and passionate and retro and all of those things.
That's awesome, man. Man, well, we appreciate you hanging out with
Mike,
us. And
definitely
we're glad we could be a part of, pushing your movement.
I'm honored you guys have me on here. I was a bit surprised by you asking me, man. This is the show for people who have succeeded, right?
No, you know what it is? We want that organic diversity. You know what I mean?
And you're putting out a good product and doing good things, so you're passionate
as
about it.
As soon as I showed Chris the video, I sent him the video, I said, you got to check this out. He was like, let's set it up. Yeah. Because you're real with it. So.
And I really appreciate it. Yeah. And I'm sort of taken aback by how you and several people who I know in the industry are taking me seriously, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just throwing videos online and people are taking it seriously before it has had any success whatsoever. If
That's
anything,
awesome.
the only success it's had so far is making me feel like I'm doing something in games.
And that's huge. That's good. That's how it starts.
Yeah. So I really appreciate you guys having me on here and allowing me to talk about it and rant on about video games for what's been half an hour.
Tell people where they can find you. So
obviously the main thing I would love everybody to see is the YouTube channel, which is
spell
unfortunately it's weird. It's Supertanooki TV. Nintendo fans will get the reference, but it's spelled Super the conventional way, SUPER. Tanuki is spelled TANOOKI.
Okay.
And TV, right? And because the channel's so new, it doesn't index with Google very well, so you have to put that all in as one word. Supertanooki TV, TANOOKI.
Okay.
If you split them
Facebook
up, you get some. You get
Instagram, or
I have a Facebook account page under the same name, and a Twitter account as well, also under the same name. Or you can follow me personally. It's the Mike Jackson.
Okay, and we'll repost it too, so everybody
Jackson,
knows
so,
it. We know the name, man. That brand. Yeah.
So the Mike Jackson is what I am on Twitter, because I guess the big pop star maybe took the original.
That's good stuff, man. We definitely we'll be putting you back out. So again, man, thanks for visiting us. You can check us out at thevegascircle.com, our YouTube channel, and all the social media. So appreciate you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, guys.
Good stuff.